Hey, welcome back. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and immediately forget what you were looking for? Imagine that, but for an entire colony of people. Poof, gone. Just a single, cryptic word carved into a post. That's the chill that's run down the spine of historians for over 4 centuries. And I have to tell you, the latest chapter in this story, it might just change everything. I'm Ibnul Jaif Farabi, and this is Hidden Histories, the Untold Files. Today, we're diving into one of America's oldest and most haunting mysteries, the Lost Colony of Roanoke. And we're asking a question that's been asked 100 times before, but with a new, tantalizing possibility. Could it finally be found? Let's set the scene. It's 1587. A group of about 115 English men, women, and children, led by a man named John White, land on Roanoke Island, off the coast of what's now North Carolina. They were aiming to establish the first permanent English settlement in the New World. Soon after they arrived, Governor White's own daughter, Eleanor, gave birth. The child, Virginia Dare, was the first English child born in the Americas. But supplies ran short, and White was forced to sail back to England for reinforcements. A little delay, he thought. But then, war. The Anglo-Spanish War broke out. Every English ship was commandeered to fight the Spanish Armada, and White couldn't get a passage back for 3 long years. When he finally returned in 1590, the settlement was deserted. No signs of a struggle, no graves. The houses had been carefully dismantled, suggesting a planned departure. The only clue, the word Croatoan carved into a fort's post and CRO carved into a tree. That was it. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, home to a Native American tribe who were generally friendly. White took this as a sign they'd moved there, but a storm blew his ships off course. He couldn't investigate, and he never saw his family again. The colony vanished into legend. For centuries, the theories have swirled. Did they integrate with the Croatoan tribe? Were they wiped out by a Spanish raid from Florida? Did they try to sail back to England in a small boat and perish? Or was it something else? Disease, famine, conflict? The Lost Colony became a ghost story, a historical blank space we filled with our own fears and imaginations. But here's where the file gets reopened. In the last few decades, a different kind of investigation began, not in dusty English archives, but in the living DNA and oral histories of present-day communities. A group called the Lost Colony Center for Science and Research began focusing on a place called Bertie County, North Carolina, about 50 miles inland from Roanoke. This area was the heart of what was later called the Lost Colony Drought. A severe dry period Treering data confirms would have made life on the coast incredibly hard. It makes sense they'd move inland, following rivers to where food and water were more reliable. And in Bertie County, for generations, there have been families with names like Dial, Hyatt, and Dare, names from the Roanoke colony roster, who have stories. Stories of ancestors who were here before the others, who spoke an odd sort of English, and who, crucially, have always identified as having Native American ancestry, specifically from the Croatoan and other Algonquian tribes. For years, these oral histories were dismissed as folklore, but science is starting to listen. Archaeological work at a site called Site X, near the Chowan River, has turned up English artifacts from the correct time period. A fragment of a writing slate, a gun spur, pieces of pottery that don't match later colonial styles. These aren't smoking guns, but they are whispers. Whispers that say, "We were here." Then, there's the most personal evidence of all, DNA. Several individuals from these local families have undergone genetic testing. Their mitochondrial DNA, passed down through the maternal line, shows rare haplogroups found in parts of Western England and nowhere else in the early colonial populations. It's a genetic signature that appears like a ghost in the machine, suggesting a lineage that didn't come through Jamestown or Plymouth, but from an earlier, lost source. So, let's piece this new narrative together. The colony, facing a terrible drought, splits up. Some may have gone south to Croatoan Island, as the carving suggested. But a larger group, perhaps following the instructions White left for such a contingency, traveled inland along the Albemarle Sound. They sought out friendly tribes they'd had contact with before. They didn't die out. They married in. They assimilated. They became part of the community, preserving their names and some of their crafts, their language slowly blending over generations. They weren't lost. They were home. This idea hits me on a very personal level. As an immigrant, as someone who built a life in a new world far from Bangladesh, I understand the instinct to adapt, to weave your story into a new fabric. The Roanoke colonists didn't have the luxury of nostalgia. Survival meant becoming part of the landscape, literally and culturally. We've always framed their disappearance as a tragedy, a failure. But what if it was the opposite? What if it was the ultimate success of integration? Their mystery endured because we were looking for an English village, frozen in time. We weren't looking for a blended community, for people who chose a new path to survive. The romantic in me wants this to be the answer. It's humane. It's resilient. It turns a tale of horror into one of quiet endurance. But the investigator in me, the engineer, has to note, the evidence is compelling, but it's circumstantial. A few artifacts, some genetic anomalies, family stories, they form a plausible, beautiful theory, but not a closed case. We may never find a skeleton with a 16th century English signet ring or a journal buried in the Carolina soil. The truth is likely messy, a combination of integration, dispersal, and yes, probably some tragedy. So, is the lost colony of Roanoke found? I think the answer is shifting from no to not in the way we expected. We might not find a stockade with answers carved into more posts. Instead, we might find the descendants. The story isn't etched solely in wood, but in DNA, in pottery shards, in the stubborn persistence of a surname. The colony didn't vanish. It faded, like one color of thread woven into a much larger, more complex tapestry. The real mystery, then, isn't what happened to them. It's why it took us so long to listen to the stories that were here all along. We were so obsessed with the idea of a clue, of a single word carved in a post, that we missed the living story being told around us. Thank you for joining me for this journey into one of history's greatest puzzles. If you loved untangling this mystery with me, please make sure you're subscribed to Hidden Histories wherever you get your podcasts. Share it with a friend who loves a good story. And for more deep dives into the shadows of our past, visit our producers at Light Not Studios. That's https://www.lightnotstudios.com. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi. Until next time, keep looking. The most important clues are often the ones we stop taking for granted.